This passage, really at the heart of it, Pilate asks this question that I think rivets all of us. What is truth? I mean, really, what is it? And in the story, the drama that unfolds, I think that each person is wrestling with reality and responding to it in a different way. You have Peter. What do you think? I mean, what's the truth that he's dealing with in this passage?
Well, he was asked more than once about his relationship with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people asked, "Are you his disciple?" And of course, he's like one of the primary ones, and he didn't want to own up to that truth, and he fell down. And sometimes we do that. When people give us an opportunity to testify or speak about the truth of the relationship that we have with God through Jesus Christ, a lot of times we fall down and we don't fess up.
Yeah. So, in this drama, now Peter's out here and he's fearful, and that's impacting his willingness to proclaim truth that he knows. I mean, that's one thing. When we're fearful, we get afraid to tell the truth.
I think they were all fearful. I think they, like Lise, we said, they all had a different perspective on what was going on. But I saw that Pilate was fearful, maybe of what the Jews would say to Rome about him and his authority. I think the Jews were fearful of Jesus and his authority, and I think that there were many ways of looking at the truth. However, I believe that it's very clear in this that in some way or another they all knew the truth of who Jesus was. But they all were spinning or whatever, to make things go their own way, their own selfish desire, their own way.
So when the high priests are trying to deal, trying to make a solution to what they see as maybe as a threat to their power, what do you think is operating for them as an understanding of truth? What are they operating out of?
Self-preservation at any cost.
Yeah.
There's lots of people who don't believe like we do, or make truth claims or adhere to truth claims like we do, but you don't go around trying to eradicate the people. These people obviously were in the position where they recognized the truth claims that Jesus was making about himself. They recognized the things he'd been doing, that he was obviously from God. Nicodemus had previously been in the inner circle of Jewish leadership, and yet a believer in Christ secretly, said, "We know that you are a man come from God," about Jesus, because nobody can do the things that you do except God is with them. So they knew all these things, but they were not willing to accept the truth. So they had to go the other side. And their way of dealing with the truth that they didn't want to accept was to kill him.
Yeah. I think that we can easily overjudge them.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're oppressed, and if somehow Jesus pushes the line too far with Rome, they know that the consequence could be a consequence for all of Israel, for all of their people. And actually, the line did get pushed. Down the road, Jesus actually prophesies, and in Matthew 24, and then the line gets pushed, and then Jerusalem is sacked. Something like 60 or 70 A.D. or something. I mean, so there were realities that they were wrestling with, and everyone really is keyed around, this issue of power.
Yeah.
I mean, Roman power pushed a lot of buttons here.
Yeah.
I mean, and the Jews are using that to try to get what they think will keep them safe. And, there's this worldview that Pilate's wrestling with, where it's like, where are you from? I mean, in a Roman perspective, it is possible, though, one of the gods has a relationship with someone, and now this could be a son of God, and then what if it is? And they claiming it is. I mean, I don't want to be responsible killing one of a god, and
or his child,
I mean, that's not going to be good for me,
Right.
So in his worldview, he's wrestling with, if I do this, what are the consequences? How do I clean myself of this situation so I'm not responsible? And Jesus is like, hey, Jesus is acting way too calm for this situation.
Yes.
He's the only one that's not afraid.
It's like, hey, God, if you wouldn't be in your position unless God gave you the power that you have. So don't worry about it. Your fault is less than those that gave you over. It's like, but it still implies you're at fault.
Yeah.
So you're saying that when people read this passage, they're too hard on those who are at fault, or those that we see that are at fault. Maybe if we were there, in other words, this is just our human nature. People screw up, even when they know they're screwing up. They still do it.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe these people, at least the Jews, somewhere knew that Jesus really was the king, and they still screwed up.
And I think Pilate knew.
Yeah, I do too.
When Pilate, confronted Jesus and said, "How come you're not answering me now? How come you're not responding to me? Don't you realize what kind of authority I have?" And we often think of the state or being the ultimate authority. And Jesus made it really clear where his authority came from. He spoke truth about that. You are an authority autonomous and on your own. You've been given authority. And ultimately, your authority didn't even come from Caesar. Your authority came down from heaven. And my kingdom this is the other truth, my kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is from that authority.
So to wrap this up in about a minute, I think at the heart, what we see is Jesus is comfortable, though he knows he's actually in pain. I mean, he's been, beaten by these Roman soldiers who had a whole other perspective about what's going on, because they're acting out of their own frustration. They've been used as the military hand to force oppression on a people. And they're frustrated and angry themselves because, they've been put in the middle of this conflict. And, at the end, Jesus is ready to embrace how God's going to use this history to reshape history. Just a question. Have you ever been faced with a realization that I can go here and do something significant, or I can let it go? And I think that this is the place where we all wrestle with truth. What is truth? The truth is what you live before God, because we all will get to answer to God. God bless.
God
Keep the
bless.
faith, one day at a time.